At today's A team meeting, I talked about the fact that Lisa and I were going to meet with the bilingual specialist this afternoon to go over some TELPAS data and information. And this all started as a result of conversations at Dickinson High School. Earlier in the year, I sent you a form that looks something like this for someone to have a conversation with the students. And this tells them that what their composite score is, what their proficiency rating on the different domains are. And that's pretty much as deep as we have gone into the data. And after we got our RDA report this year, and we were so close on getting in trouble in RDA for a TELPAS, Dr. Smith asked me to look into TELPAS a little bit further. So once I'm given a data challenge, you know that I'm going to go full force with it. And so what I did was I went and I looked for some more TELPAS data. And I did change the local numbers on this, so you don't have to worry about any student information being divulged. What I did was I went into Eduphoria and I pulled all of the TELPAS information for our students. So it has their yearly progress indicator, it has their TELPAS composite score, their writing, their listening, their reading, their speaking, their reading. I also included the years in US school. And on this report, we added in their kindergarten year if they were here for kindergarten, and just so that you would have that full picture. I know that when we put in the years in school into Skyward, that it does not include kindergarten, but it's there to make sure that you have that full picture. I also let you know if the student is scheduled to have text to speech and if they have content and language support. Now, remember, if they have LPAC designated supports, they cannot exit. Okay, so we need to make sure that we look at what supports the students have. That's why I put that on there. So when we look at our data, we need to look at several things. When we look at the listening proficiency, we see that there are actually three reporting categories in the listening proficiency. Let me open this up a little bit more so we get a little bit bigger picture on here. Okay, so when we look at listening, we see we have reporting category 1, which has 5 points. Reporting category 2 has 16 points. Reporting category 3 has 6 points. The total raw score, and then that raw score is converted into a scale score, and that scale score is converted into a proficiency rating. Several things that we need to do with our data is right now I know that TELPAS starts in another week, and that when we look at our data, I don't want you to feel like we can't do anything, because for Star Blitz, we do lots of stuff within 2 weeks. So we can do kind of like a TELPAS Blitz, and we can pull a few of our kids. And if we're going to do that, we need to be very strategic about the students that we're pulling. Okay, some of the things that we need to look at in our data. We need to look at our yearly progress indicator. When we look at our yearly progress indicator, we do not want to ever see where the students went backwards or didn't make any progress. Because remember, the whole idea is progress. And so in this particular case, we have 14 out of our 38 students who either scored the same TELPAS composite this year as they did last year, or they scored a level lower. Now we don't get credit for those. We get dinged on those students, okay? And so we need to look and see, why did they go down or why did they not progress? We also, when we look at our RDA data, we know that we get dinged for the reading proficiency of beginning. And so let's look at just how many beginners we have. We have 10 out of 38. Remember, the only time that a student should be scoring a reading proficiency of beginner is on their very first TELPAS test. After that, we should be done with beginner reader. We look here and we see that this student is in fourth grade and they attended kindergarten in the United States, but they are still at a beginner level of reading fluency. And we stepped the bilingual specialist through all of this today. So we talked about how to look at the data and some of the key things to look for. So these beginning readers, but wait a minute, look, on these beginning readers for writing proficiency, we have some advanced or intermediate writing proficiency. That's a little bit of an imbalance there because look at this student. Writing is intermediate, listening advanced, speaking advanced, but reading is beginner. So we need to look at all of those things because when we look at RDA, we know that reading beginning is not a good thing. We need to get them out of beginning readers. All right, the next thing that we want to look at is we want to look at those students who are at advanced as they're at advanced high for their composite score. Hang on, I can't click very well with this finger mouse pad. These students have a composite score of advanced high, but we know that they cannot exit TELPAS unless all four domains are advanced high as well. So when we look at this student, the writing is advanced, the speaking is advanced. So if we want to help the student prepare for exiting, we know that we need to help them with speaking and writing. When I look at speaking, in reporting category 1, they scored 14 out of 16. 14 out of 20. Okay. So we need to be able to help them with that reporting category. And most people don't realize that there is a lot of things that go into each of those reporting categories. And so I gave each of the bilingual specialists this form. And the first thing that it talks about is the TELPAS. What are they used for? They're used for instruction. They're used to monitor student growth. They're used to communicate to the parents. But they are also used to be able to get on our state and our federal accountability. So special ed and RDA is where it counts at state and federal. So we need to make sure that we pay close attention to that. All right. On speaking, that goes through, and I know I'm scrolling through this fairly fast. On speaking, we have two reporting categories. The first one is, can the student provide and summarize information? And the second one is share opinions and analyze information. I know a lot of people still believe the myth that, oh, the speaking scores are low because we don't have very good mics. No, the state has really great deciphering software, and so if the student is recording, they're going to be able to hear what they record. But when they speak, it's not just talking. It's not just talking about, oh, what'd you do this weekend? It is actually about providing and summarizing information and sharing opinions and analyze information. We know that summarize and analyze are pretty high skills, and that's what they have to do in the speaking. So by looking at the reporting categories, we know more information. And I'm going to show you in the educator guide, excuse me, I'm going to show you in the educator guide a little bit more information about speaking. Oops, let me see if I can find it. Okay, whoops. All right, the speaking category. Category 1, this is where the student ask and give information ranging from using a very limited bank of high frequency, high need, concrete vocabulary, including keywords and expression needed for basic communication in an academic and social context, to using abstract and content-based vocabulary during extended speaking assignments, and narrate, describe, and explain with increasing specificity and detail as more English is required. Okay, that's what we need to know that that's really about. And then we can go into the details about reporting category 2, and then we can see how the ELPs play into it. Okay, and then we can see how the test format plays into the speaking. So it's not just can you get onto a microphone and talk, it's about can you meet the criteria of what you were talking about. And the microphone really doesn't play into it because there is so much software to be able to clean up that microphone that what they're really looking for is, are you meeting the objectives? Okay. So let's go back to our spreadsheet, and I'm going to clear my filters. And so when we look at students, we want to know who can we, in this short amount of time before TELPAS this year, who can we help the most? So let's look at our students who are at a composite score of advanced or advanced high. Okay, these students have a composite score of advanced or advanced high. This student is at the same or went down from the previous TELPAS test. Okay, some of these students don't have a yearly progress indicator because they did not take a test in the previous year. So that's important to know. But when I do this student is advanced high. We need him advanced high in all domains. So this student needs help in writing, help in speaking. Okay, this student is advanced high composite and went up a level last year. Yay, student. Advanced high, advanced high, advanced high. So, what do we need to help this student in? We need to help the student in speaking proficiency because they are at an advanced. And if they get that advanced move to advanced high, then if they meet the other criteria for exit, they've met their TELPAS. So it's real important that we look at these reporting categories and we see how close they are. Let me see if let me get another file open for you real quick. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I'm sorry. All right, let me go into my drive. And what I am looking for is this right here. Okay. What these tables are is they tell you what the scale score is to move from one performance level to the next. And so when we look at these scale scores, let me see if I can open this up a little bit for you. When we look at these scale scores, we know that the first is beginner. So from 0 to 7 raw points is beginner, from 8 to 14 raw points is intermediate, 15 to 20 is advanced, and 21 to 27 is advanced high. So we look at a student that has 19, they only need 2 more questions to go from advanced to advanced high. If a question has 14, then they are sitting at intermediate. They only need 1 more question to jump a performance level to advance. And so these sheets are going to be key in helping you determine how close the students are to being a performance level jumper. And I will send these to you as well. So we need to keep this in mind. Now here is the scale score range. We just need to know that these lines right here break a performance level. And so it is beginning, intermediate, advanced, advanced high. And I will send you all of these forms so that you have them for quick reference. Okay. So you'll get the manual, and in the manual, there is so much information. And we have a tendency to not dive deeply into the information in the manual. It talks about the reporting category, the SE, the description, the point values, and the targeted proficiency levels. Okay. It gives you, let me get a little bit more. Oops, let me move down a little bit. Okay. It gives you so much information. It tells you where you find your tutorials. And I know I'm making you dizzy by scrolling through this quickly. Sorry, I'm trying to get to. Okay, you saw that page that I actually took out for you to be able to see. Here are your PLDs. Your speaking, some of the activities that come with the speaking. So it's really important that we look at this information, that we know what we're looking for. So if I have students who are advanced or advanced high and still have content and language support, in this case, I have 4 students who are at advanced or advanced high as a composite score, but they're still using or still have recorded the availability of content and language support. Remember that if our LPAC committee assigns supports, then the student cannot exit. Wouldn't it be terrible if we had a student who was advanced high and then scored advanced high in all four domains, met their star scores, but couldn't exit because somebody didn't clear out the content and language support? Now, if the student is still using it, and that's what makes a difference, we need to make sure that we keep it. But if they're not using it, if they're not clicking on that blue box online to be able to get that simpler definition, explanation, or graphic, then why do we still have it marked? Because by saying yes and is it assigned to them, we're holding them back. Like this student is an advanced high. They have advanced, advanced high, advanced high. Well, if they can bring up these two advanced this year, but they still have content and language support, they won't be able to exit. Okay, now I showed the bilingual specialist how to be able to use filters a little bit, and I will be more than happy to go over the filters again anytime anybody needs it, because that makes determining what we need to do so much easier. Here are the students. There's 6 students that have content and language support. Only 2 of them are intermediate. As they go up, we need to start reevaluating, do they need them? Do they use them? Are they what makes the difference? Okay. And so we're going to work to make sure in our little TELPAS blitz for this year's TELPAS, we're going to work with those kids who are very close to meeting advanced high in all levels, but we also in all domains, but we also need to check in here. Anybody that's scoring as a beginning reader, they cannot score a beginning reader again. And when we look here, we see that they are in 4 and 5 years in US schools. And remember, for this data, I'm showing you if they were in kindergarten or not. So you have that additional information. And our TELPAS composite scores are intermediate. And we have a student here who has an advanced writing score, but a beginning reading score. Something doesn't quite add up there. And so we've got intermediate listening, advanced speaking. They really should not be at a beginning reader. Okay, so we need to look at any student who's still listed as a beginning reader. And if this is not their first year of taking TELPAS, we need to be able to touch base with that student and say, what happened? What were you doing? How can I help you? How can I get you out of that beginner? Because remember, every beginning reading proficiency that is not the initial TELPAS test counts as a ding against us in RDA. Okay, and remember in RDA, we look at the students who are at beginning and intermediate who have been here for 5 or more years. So that's another thing that we have to look at. And that's most of what we looked at when we met with the bilingual specialist this afternoon. It was looking at the conversion tables so we understood raw score to scale score and how the break right there was the difference in the performance levels. We looked at the manual because the manual has so much great information in it to help us understand the reporting categories, to help us understand what those reporting categories in each domain mean. Okay. And I handed out this sheet just because it was a really quick reference. And so we need to make sure that before a student takes a TELPAS test, that they have actually taken a practice test. And all of the students can get to the practice test, and the CTCs on every campus have the procedures, so we can go to the practice test. Now, when they do the practice test for STAR, it's important that they sign in with their TSDS number because that's how they get their test their test attributes. Excuse me, sorry. On TELPAS, you do not get any test attributes, and so they can sign in as a guest just to save a little bit of time. And when they sign in, let's look at 6th grade. When we sign in, we see the new STAR item types. Yay! TEA has released that to us. We see the released and practice test for STAR, and then we see the TELPAS release and practice test. So we've got 2017 TELPAS reading, we've got 2020 TELPAS listening and speaking, 2018 listening and speaking, 2020 reading, 2018 reading, and then we have a TELPAS writing sampler. Now remember, this year our reading test is going to have writing questions in it. And the reason TEA is doing that this year as field test is because the current plan is for the 2023 TELPAS to have writing being done online rather than us collecting the writing compositions, scoring them, and enter the scores. That'll all be done as a part of the testing cycle. Okay, so they can come in here and they can select a test. We don't need any test attributes. And then we can check our audio play. I heard it. We can check the recording. Hello, this is Dr. Knopfsinger. Allow. This is Dr. Knopfsinger demonstrating how we're going to use our TELPAS data. Okay. This is Dr. Knopfsinger demonstrating how we're going to use our TELPAS data. I didn't turn it off, so there's a lot of silence in that. Okay. Oh. Okay, and then we can begin the test. And it's very important that the students take the practice test before they take the real test. And they can go through and they can do each question. Now, when they do the practice test, if they've received intervention beforehand because we used that data, we looked at the reporting category, somebody worked with them. When we go into the practice test, let somebody sit with them. Let somebody guide them through about how to take your time, about what to pay attention to, about some of the thought processes that go into the questions, and then let the student explain to that test administrator for the practice test what their thought process is, what they're doing, and what they know or don't know about it. And they can go through that entire release test. Okay. So that is what we did with the bilingual specialist today. We went through the data, we went through using it in the Excel spreadsheet, we went through making sure that everybody understood that there's a lot that goes into this proficiency rating, that each reporting category has its own score goal, and that each reporting category has its own raw to scale score for each of the 4 performance levels. So that is what we did, and hopefully it'll make a difference. Now we know that we are in the midst of TELPAS this year, so this is just about learning what's there, what's available, how to use it, doing a little bit of a TELPAS blitz, but this is laying the foundation so that next year we can get out there at the beginning of the year and that we can come directly to the campus. We can talk to the team of teachers, specialists, aides, anybody who works with your students who will take a TELPAS, and we can make sure that there is a good, solid understanding of what it takes to be able to pass the TELPAS test. All right, well, I hope this little introduction helped.